We can go ahead and go into our next text type, which is argument. So there are a variety of terms in the Common Core standards, persuasive writing, but it breaks down into some different terms, opinion and argument. We think argument makes the connection to science in a way that the terms persuasive and opinion don't as much. But we wanted to provide a little document just kind of explaining the breakdown of these terms. So Andrew has pasted that in the chat box. Thanks for doing that, Andrew. From what we've read, the framers of the Common Core state standards thought that writing genuine arguments was too complex for primary students. So they suggested that writing opinions was a step towards that goal. However, the framers of the next generation science standards firmly believe that primary students can and should engage in arguments. So that's why we're choosing to use the word argument here. But that opinion writing might also be a foundation for this as well. So with that, we are going to investigate one of the questions that came up in the chat box earlier, actually, which is what do they eat? What foods do snails eat? So we're going to investigate that question together as a group. We have several different food options that we'll show you in a moment. And again, you all are in the driver's seat, so you'll be able to tell us which foods you'd like to test. But before we investigate, it's important to know what type of evidence or data that we're looking for. When we did this with students in the classroom, we had the teacher take a bite of an apple and then said, what evidence do you have that the teacher is eating? And they said things like, oh, well, her mouth is moving and we can see bite marks on the apple. So that's how they knew what to look for in their own investigations. And that's what we'll be looking for as well today. So some mouth movement, some bite marks, maybe we'll notice a few other things that could count as evidence. But that's really what we're collecting today to help us answer our question.
Kathy has her hand.
Oh, great. Kathy, did you have a question?
Or was that was from before when I shared. I'll put it down.
Perfect. That's the tricky thing with this raise hand feature. It requires you to lower the hand, which I certainly forget to do that. Thank you. So then can we spotlight Fred's camera again? Awesome. We've got some options for us here. We've got watermelon, pasta, chicken nuggets, carrots, Kit Kats, hot Cheetos, lettuce, cheese, and bread. So that's what we've got on Fred's plate over here. Yeah, it looks tasty. So what are some things that we want to try? And the way we're going to do the experiment online is just to choose like 3 or 4 foods to put on the plate with the snail and see which ones the snail would like to eat. We can always start a second plate. If you were doing this with your students, you could always do observations over multiple days to collect even more data. But we're going to see if we can answer this question with one set of data here today. So what would we like to try? Hot Cheetos is one request.
All right.
Great. Thank you, Fred. Other requests on foods we'd like to try? Lettuce. Go healthy and not healthy. Snails charcuterie board. And then maybe a watermelon piece as well, and the cheese possibly. Yeah, if we had a freezer with some ice cream, you could certainly test some ice cream as well. Great, thanks for getting us set up, Fred. So maybe we'll start with this plate and then we can always try some other foods a little bit later. So already, oh, did you move that Cheeto, Fred?
That is the snail moving it.
Excellent. Okay, so do we have any evidence that the snail might be eating the hot Cheeto? And we can put that in the chat box if you're noticing something. Wow.
Oh, it's strong.
Yes. It's really knocking it there. Yeah, so good. Some evidence in the chat box already. He's touching it with his mouth, and we know that because the Cheeto is moving. We can see it moving it. Great. Oh, it's on the lettuce. Are all the foods room temperature right now, Fred? We had a question about that.
That's a great question. Yes, they are.
Okay. Great. So anything is there anything anyone would like to see? We have that magnifying glass. We could try to get a particular angle. Yeah. Yeah, so we've got some different kind of categories here, it seems. Someone wanted to see their mouth. Great. So is there one where we could get a close-up angle of the mouth?
This one on the cheese may be the easiest, but
Great.
because their mouth is on the bottom of their face, I'd have to get under the cheese.
Mm.
But I'll keep looking for a good
Oh,
angle.
that might be good actually, Fred, if you can zoom in with the magnifying glass, because I feel like I'm almost seeing something.
Get everyone dizzy for a minute. Sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, I'm wondering. There we go. Wow. Okay. Yeah. What are we noticing? Any thoughts in the chat box? Can we see evidence of the snail eating the cheese? Yes, they are all over the food. Yeah, the mouth part was moving around the edge of the cheese. Oh, great. Thanks, Fred. Oh.
Oh,
So close. Oh, there we go. I wonder. Wow. Yeah, are we seeing some evidence of the mouth moving? Maybe it's hard to see it take an actual bite. We do have a request to maybe if we go by the lettuce and kind of peek underneath it, we might be able to see the mouth moving at the bottom of the plate near the lettuce. I'm not sure how that might be tricky to do with the camera, but.
it's on top of the lettuce. So let me take it off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Ah, okay, yeah. Yeah, so do we have some evidence that the snail is eating the lettuce? Can everybody see that? But yes, bite marks, absolutely. Quite a few bite marks there.
Oh, he's going back for more.
Yes, there's a whole chunk missing.
I'm gonna pull this snail away from the hot Cheeto and see if we see anything in a, sorry, snail.
Ah. Interesting. Oh, yeah, when you turn it especially, it almost glistens a little bit. Can anybody else see anything, or is anybody noticing anything else about that hot Cheeto? Maybe some slime.
And do you see those kind of white parts?
Yes, it's almost like they took that top layer off. Yeah, and Brian said it looks like they take circular bites. Interesting.
And once, look at the watermelon here again. I feel bad about pulling them away from their feed, but there you go.
Great.
So a little bit of a ragged edge there where it's been nibbling. There you go.
Nice, yeah.
Dig in.
Oh, yes, and Julia had a question about the salt question. So just from background knowledge, it seems like we've shared that snails are sensitive to salt, and so there's going to be some salt on that hot Cheeto. So yes, I believe there's going to be some salt there, but again, when we've done this in the past, no problems with the snail being harmed as a result of that. Fred, is there anything else you want to say about the salt aspect?
I think that's the name of the game. Like you just like you wouldn't pour a whole spoonful of salt in your mouth, that's where it would get harmful to a snail. But if they come up to a food and taste it and find it not to their liking, they'll just move away from it.
Perfect, thank you. That's a great image. Yeah, I wouldn't pour salt into my mouth either. I don't, oh, great comment from Alma. I don't think the snail liked the cheese. He left it. Did the snail eat the cheese or leave the cheese on its own accord?
He left the cheese twice. I put it back on.
Interesting.
And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a different snail there.
Hmm.
Do they have individual preferences?
Hmm. That's great.
Let me put on the paper there. There we go.
And Kathy asked a nice question about, so do they have tiny teeth? And Fred was had a nice way of describing it earlier. It's almost like one tooth that's in the shape of a serrated knife, Fred. Is that what you said? And it's almost like,
Yep.
yeah, scraping. Oh, interesting. So that snail seems to be testing the cheese out.
This is the French snail.
Yes, and that tooth is called a radula, Kathy. So instead of being called teeth, that's what it's called. Wow, that Cheeto is moving quite a bit again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, other things we want to try or zoom in on. Oh, a chicken nugget. Great, that's a nice view too. Yeah, is there a way to get the magnifying lens on that one, Fred? Because I definitely see movement. I'm wondering if we can collect even more specific evidence here. Yeah, exactly. So looking at the snail's mouth might help us collect more evidence that they're eating. That's a great view, Fred. Interesting. What we can do as well is leave the snails on the plates during our workshop and check in at the very, very end to see if we can collect even more evidence.
This one on the Cheeto just seems to be the most active, so
Totally.
focusing on him.
What about the one on the cheese? Is the one on the cheese still eating? Very interesting.
And so I'm going to pull the home off. And yeah, that little corner seems to.
Uh-oh, we lost. There we go. Yep. Seems to have some bite marks off of it.
Just a little. So hard to tell, but do you see that corner is a little bit nibbled off there?
Yes, that's some nice evidence right there. Great. Okay. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll let our snails keep eating a little bit, and let's just see, and maybe we can stop the spotlight for now, and just see if we can, or maybe we can keep the video on. That works too. Can we write an argument about what foods snails eat, and do we have some evidence to support our claims? So if you'd like to go ahead and I'll share my screen here actually and start generating some arguments. And again, we can share those orally or we could put those in the chat box about what food snails eat, and making sure to use some evidence to support the claim that you're making right now. And while we're writing, I know I mentioned this earlier, but you know, in an online learning environment, you might want to do this several times so you had some more data, but hopefully we're able to generate some arguments just with the one investigation we did in that 10 minutes.